Hello, everyone. This is the Taking Vegas podcast for the weekend of October 14th, 15th, and 16th. Going to break down some college and pro action, give you guys some free picks, talk about the game of the year, because we have that on Saturday in college football. We're really excited about that. And big things going on in general. I am Chris Hodge. Going to be with you here for the next 20 to 25 minutes, getting you all set for some big college football action, big NFL action on Sunday. But hey, let me tell you this right now. If there was one company in the world that could bankrupt Amazon, it might be the NFL, because these Thursday night games are so bad. You can't even watch them. First of all, legitimately, you can't watch them. I went to 3 bars the other night. None of them had the game because they didn't have Amazon. It's kind of a cheap move by the bars, but I mean, for the love of God. And then you have just some of the worst football. Like, I don't get it. Like, who, when they do the schedule, right, who comes up with Washington and Chicago for a Thursday night game? Who does that? Why do they do that? And then they force us to watch it. Look, I've been screaming about this for years, right? The NFL, they've come around with gambling because the NFL is a hypocritical league. And, you know, they love to make money, and gambling makes the NFL money. Fine. No problem. Whether it's gambling on the actual games, the props, or fantasy. Okay. But if there wasn't gambling, if you took that out of the equation, if you took a point spread and you took fantasy football out of the equation, no one, literally no one, would watch those Thursday night games unless you are a fan of the two teams that are playing. That's the only way you would watch it. I had money on the game last night. Look, right here at takingvegas.com, we had the under last night. The under was never in question, ever. It was, they could have played 8 quarters, and it wasn't getting over that total. That's how bad the football was. So we have action on the game. We bet the game. And I'm sitting there and I'm cursing that I have to watch this ridiculous game. As bad a football game. Oh, hey, look, if you thought the Indianapolis-Denver game was bad 2 weeks ago, this game was worse. That game was worse. And it wasn't even close. And both teams win with 12? The hell the last time that happened? Ever, never. You're going to win, but you're going to have primetime back-to-back games, and the winning team is going to score 12 points. That has never happened. I haven't even put my research team to work. I'm just telling you right now. If you guys can find out the last time primetime games went back-to-back and the winning team scored 12, you will get free service for the rest of the year. It could never have happened. 12? First of all, how many teams actually win with 12? And you're doing it in back-to-back weeks? I mean, it's just bad football. I got news for you. The Miami-Cincinnati game a few weeks ago, that wasn't a good game either. And the Pittsburgh-Cleveland game a month ago, that was an okay game. But these Thursday night games, first of all, what they're doing to the NFL players is just unfair. These Thursday night games got to stop. They just got to stop. It's too much. They should figure out a way, and this is something else I've said for years. And this is the Taking Vegas podcast. I'm Chris Hodge. I've said this for years. Find a way to get these Thursday night games with teams off a bye. If you have to sacrifice, you get the first game of the season, right? So you don't have to worry about that. And then maybe sacrifice 3 weeks and then do a schedule quirk where you get the teams that play on a Thursday night are playing off a bye. Because this is just bad football. And like I said, if there's a company that could somehow bankrupt Amazon and make that stock drop, it's this NFL with these damn Thursday night games. Because I tell you, bro, it's terrible. And look, we're 9-2 on weeknight pro football games. So we're making money off of it. But I hate watching it. God, I hate watching it. It's terrible. All right, let's get to the Saturday action. If you're listening to the Sports Investors Daily radio show, obviously you've heard about the game of the year. I'm on that show. I host it. I have Bobby V on it, Bobby Ventura, Gene Daly, and Tony Powers. Big action for Saturday, 888-9. Win now is the number to call. That's 888-994-6669. You'll hear about the free picks. Penn State and Michigan is the first one up. And look, that's a good game there in the Big 10. Really, really good game. Both teams undefeated. Both teams playing well. I actually think that Penn State is playing a little bit better than Michigan is. I like what Penn State did. Look, Auburn is not really a good football team, but going to Auburn and winning is never really easy. They were a little bit life and death with Purdue in week 1. They blow out a bad Ohio team in week 2. They go to Auburn and blow them out. Penn State, Michigan's playing well too. Look, it's a tough game. Michigan's -7 in the game. And the way Michigan is going lately, they've lost one game in the last season and a half. And no one could really fault them for that because that game came against Georgia. And Georgia was just a better football team. It is what it is. But, Michigan really hasn't played anyone. Hawaii, UConn, Colorado State, Maryland, Iowa, garbage. The best player on Iowa's team is a punter. Saw a video the other day. They're nominating this punter on Iowa for the Heisman Trophy. That's how bad Iowa is. And Indiana, not really a great team. But it should be a fascinating matchup. We have it for free at 888-9-WIN-NOW, 888-994-6669. Spread is 7, total 50.5 currently. And, again, I'm doing this podcast on Friday at 2:30 in the afternoon. So I'm giving you current lines. Penn State number 10, Michigan number 5. First time in history these two teams are meeting, or might be the second time these two teams are meeting when they're in the top 10. So good matchup at the Big House, 12 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. Get your day started with a big game there, and we have that game for free. Alabama and Tennessee. I'll tell you, man, Alabama, you just do not know what to think about them. And it's very rare you say that about a Nick Saban coach team, but you really just do not know if this team is good or if this team is not good. And when I say not good, I mean not good by Alabama standards. I don't mean not good by Northwestern standards or whoever else. But, look, they beat Utah State, and then they needed a last-second field goal to beat Texas. Then they play stupid teams in Vanderbilt, Arkansas, and then Texas A&M has got injuries everywhere. They need a last-second play to beat them at home. And I get it. Young is out. And, look, I said this on the I did a radio call in San Diego on Thursday night. And I said, look, you're either getting a healthy Jalen Milroe or you're getting an unhealthy Bryce Young. Either is not good. Bryce Young very well might be back for the game. And that hasn't been determined as we're doing this podcast. But he's got a shoulder injury. And to lay 7 on the road at Tennessee, tricky spot. But the odds make us see something there. And, look, credit to Tennessee. Okay? And, through the years, that's a team I've hated. I just do not like them. But credit to them, good win at LSU. I know LSU isn't what LSU used to be, but whenever you go to Death Valley and you win by 27, you've accomplished something. They beat Florida. They beat Akron, who's a garbage team. They beat Pittsburgh. They needed overtime to do that, but they're winning games, So they're catching 7 against Alabama. Interesting matchup. Both teams undefeated. One number 3, one number 6. It should be a really good matchup, and we'll have that for free as well at 888-9-WIN-NOW. Again, if you're listening to Sports Investors Daily, we're on all across the country Saturday morning. So if you're listening to that show when it airs, you'll hear about these 3 games for free. I gave you 2 already. Let me give you the third one, Kansas and Oklahoma. Now, here is one of the weirdest line movements you will ever see. Kansas has played good football this year. They did not play bad last week against TCU. We used TCU in that game. We said anyone who had 7.5, we had them buy down to 7. Anyone who had 7, we had to buy down to 6.5. So it was a win push for us. And, when their starting quarterback goes out, you're thinking, okay, you never want to see an injury, but you're thinking, okay, that's going to help you. And the kid Bean came in and played really, really well for Kansas. In fact, I thought he was better than the starter, to be quite honest with you. Kansas has played good football this year. Good win against West Virginia. Good win against Houston. Good win against Duke. Good win against Iowa State. And they were right there with TCU. And then Oklahoma. Now, I did a radio show last Friday down in Houston, KBME Sports Talk 790. And I went on that show and I said, Texas is going to not only annihilate Oklahoma, but that game's going to stay under as well. So 2-0 there. And that's what they did last week. Texas annihilated Oklahoma. It was an embarrassment of a game. And now, all of a sudden, Oklahoma, who is unranked, who's playing a top 20 team, whatever you want to consider Kansas, consider them fine, right? But they're still ranked number 19 in the country. So Oklahoma is unranked, playing number 19. Oklahoma off a 49-0 disastrous blowout loss to a hated rival in the Red River rivalry. Oklahoma opens up at 7. The majority of the money has been bet on Kansas, the majority of it, and the line goes up to 8.5, 9. I mean, you want to talk a tricky game to try to figure out if you're a public. And look, we've been researching this game all week long. We've watched both teams play in multiple games. Tricky game. And how about this for Oklahoma? You have to go back to 1998, 1999 to find the last year they went 2 straight years without making it to their conference title game. And they're 0-3 in the conference this year. They didn't make it to the title game last year. So maybe Lincoln Riley knew something. I don't like that. I don't like when coaches just up and leave. I didn't like when Kelly just got up and left Notre Dame. I didn't like when Riley just got up and left Oklahoma. And this happens all over the place. And these coaches, I said the NFL are hypocrites. There's no bigger hypocrites in the world than a college football coach. Because they'll scream, cry, whore, and complain about players having to buy into the system, do what's right for the program, don't put yourself above the program. All fine, well, and good. Comes time for a player to make NIL money, they complain about that. Meanwhile, they're making $8 million a year. Some of these college coaches are the highest paid people in the state. There's no higher paid guy in the state than in Alabama than Nick Saban. Go look it up. No higher paid guy. Right? And then when it comes time for the college players to make more their money, they don't like that. And then when college players want to transfer and go into the portal, that's a problem. But if I want to get up and leave and go to any school I want to go to and make $95 million and get free helicopters and anything else, oh, that's all good. Yeah, that's all good. That's as hypocritical as it gets. So you just come out and say it. Just come out and say it. Like, we are hypocritical schmucks. And I can at least respect that. But don't ask players to buy into yourself, buy into your program. Don't put yourself ahead of the program. Again, all well and good, and then just up and leave for more money or a better situation. Because when the players do that, no good. The players are deemed selfish. The player decides he wants to leave a school and go to a better situation. That guy's called selfish. Coach decides to do it, he's going to greener pastures. So that's a little bit of a rant there in college. Speaking about college, game of the year. Going Saturday afternoon. We absolutely love this game. On Sports Investors Daily, we've been talking about this game since August 27th. We came on and we said, we have a matchup. We're going to study the matchup for the next 6, 7, 8 weeks. Everything checks out with injuries, weather, and any other variables that could affect the game. Everything checks out. We're going to be on the game. We've been saying this since August 27th. Well, the game is here. So 888-9-WIN-NOW is the number to call, 888-994-6669. Free pick for Saturday, under Clemson FSU. Can't see how FSU scores on Clemson. Clemson will play to their defense in this game. Kind of a high total, higher than I thought it would be. 51 points. We kind of have that game around 44, and we felt that's what the spread should have been, and I don't think it's even going to get to that. You know, I don't know if this game gets out of the 30s, to be quite honest with you. Both teams will struggle to score in that game. And look, with Clemson, you know, their defense has been pretty good the last 2 weeks. They held a good North Carolina State team to 20. BC stinks. Everyone's looking at the Wake Forest game and the Clemson-Wake Forest where it's 51-45. That was an aberration. That's the only game that got away from them. They haven't allowed more than 20 in any game this season. That game was just a weird game. And then Florida State, in terms of, you know, they're just coming off a 36-point game, 19-17, was a loss against NC State. So look at the under there, 51, Clemson, FSU. Let's go over to the NFL. Don't forget about the game of the year either. 888-9-WIN-NOW is the number to call. And guys, over here at TakingVegas.com, if you're on the website, there's free pick articles all over the place. Scores and odds are here, live scores, live matchups, injury reports, weather reports. You can check all that out. We got the daily promo with the 5 weekend football picks available, and the initial investment program games are up, and tell you all about those. So it's your one-stop shop for all your sports gaming needs. over at takingvegas.com. Again, if you listen to Sports Investors Daily, you hear about all of that stuff. That's the radio show we have been doing since 2006. And I say it all the time, live on the air. We must be doing something right. And something right has to do with winning games and winning clients money, which is all this is about. So that's the Saturday recap. Let's go over to Sunday. Minnesota and Miami. Miami will be starting their third-string quarterback, who did not look good against a bad Jets team. And look, I don't. You Jet fans, okay? I don't want to hear anything about you guys. All right, you are the most fortunate team in history right now. The only reason why you beat Cleveland in Week 2 is because Cleveland's Cleveland. Cleveland just happens to be a worse organization than the Jets. Okay. Pittsburgh, you needed a last-minute drive to beat them, and then you catch a fortunate break where not only do you get Miami with their backup quarterback, you get Miami with their backup to the backup after you knock Bridgewater out. So, nice 3-2 start. I know the Jets have been kicked in the dick, their fans, for so long that they're just happy to be 3-2, and that's fine, well and good. But don't be thinking the Jets are a good football team because they have been a very fortunate football team. All right, so Minnesota and Miami. Minnesota gets Miami with a third-string quarterback in the game, Skylar Thompson. And this would be like Minnesota, because Minnesota finds ways to do this, right? This would be like Minnesota as a 3-point favorite on the road to find a way to screw a game up. Because they tried to screw the Detroit game up. They tried their best to screw the Saints game up in London. And then they tried to screw the Bears game up. And you saw how bad the Bears were on Thursday night. So what team is this? What Minnesota team is this? Right? Who are they? I get they're 4-1. I get they're in first place. But what are they? Right? And that's a tough situation. When you have a game like that, it's a tough game to pick. So we have that game for free at 888-9-WIN now. San Francisco and Atlanta. Atlanta's 5-0 against the spread, just so you guys know that. And you wouldn't have thought that before the year started, that Atlanta would be 5-0 against the spread. Not really a great football team, but hey, 5-0 against the spread. Now, look, last week, San Francisco was kind of in the same situation. And San Francisco played at Carolina last week. They stayed on the East Coast for this game. Last week, they were like a 6.5, 7-point favorite, and the line came down. And that didn't make a whole bunch of sense because San Francisco was infinitely better than Carolina, which is how it played out on the field. And it's happening again. And San Francisco was infinitely better than Atlanta. And it's happening again. As of Friday, the line opened at 6.5. It is currently at 5.5. All right. I don't know if people are buying into Atlanta being, a perfect 5-0 against the posted point spread. They have been behind in a lot of these games. And they find a way, they were behind big against the Rams, found a way to cover. They were behind big against New Orleans. They were up big against New Orleans, found a way to lose, but they still covered. And then they were down big again last week against Tampa Bay, found a way to cover. So they're finding ways to cover games, but San Francisco is infinitely better. San Francisco 5.5 right now. We have this game for free at 888-9-WIN now. And then over to Arizona and Seattle. And now here's one I spoke about on Sports Investors Daily. We all would have lost money on this. No one in the world would have guessed this, bet this, or anything else. And when I say no one, I literally mean not one single person who has ever walked this earth would have made this bet. Not one. The highest rated passer in terms of quarterback rating through the first 5 weeks of the NFL season in one game is Geno Smith. Geno Smith, number one. I was asked that question last week, and I did not get it right. I said I thought Josh Allen was the number one rated passer after the week 5 was completed. You could have gave me 10 guesses. And I studied it. I do this stuff for a living. I wouldn't have got Geno Smith. And if you were to bet a quarterback before the season started to be through 5 weeks of the season to have the number one rated quarterback rating, no one ever, you can go back to the times of the dinosaurs, no one ever would have picked Geno Smith to be the highest rated quarterback through the first 5 weeks. But he is. Arizona playing Seattle. Not really a sexy matchup. Arizona minus 2.5. Again, you don't know what Arizona is. Some games they play well. Some games they play like garbage. It seems like when they play good teams, they get annihilated. And last week, they cover against Philly, but they were down basically the whole game. Got down 14-0 early. Seattle, Seattle, they lose to New Orleans last week. They were on back-to-back road games. They did beat Detroit. Good win on opening night against Denver, but what's Denver? By the way, Denver keeps getting primetime games. When are they going to kick this team off? Like, literally, how many primetime games you're going to give a garbage team? You can't change this. Right? I know they got the flex schedule on Sunday night, but they should have that for Monday night, too, because Denver's playing a Monday night game against L.A. But 3 free picks: Minnesota, Miami, San Francisco, Atlanta, Arizona, Seattle, all available. All you have to do is call 888-9-WIN-NOW. That's 888-994-6669. Free pick for the NFL for Sunday. We're going to go with under. Looks like 44.5 right now. Giants and Baltimore. New York is not going to be able to throw on Baltimore. They're going to have to run, but they're capable of running. And the Giants coaches, they've devised a nice game plan around Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. They've done a phenomenal job there. Baltimore comes in at 3-2. They literally could be 5-0. They could be 1-4. It's one of those type of seasons to start for Baltimore, but because they shouldn't have blown the game against Miami. They had another loss where they were up big at home as well. And last week they get the last-second field goal because Justin Tucker never misses. Not only does he not miss, he kicks the ball right down the middle. Like, if those field goal posts were like 18 inches apart, he would have made that kick last week. I mean, that's how good he is. Anyone who tells me there's ever been a better field goal kicker in history, you laugh them out of the conversation. Justin Tucker's better than everyone, and he has won them so many games throughout the years. But looking at under 44.5, Giants, Baltimore. And look, we got a big weekend planned. This is our game of the year. The guys are out in Vegas. Bobby, Tony, and Gene are out in Vegas. I'm home in New York. Missed them in the studio. Had to punch them in. But, it's all fun. I miss when they're giving me dirty looks when I tell them about stuff we did last week or the week before. But all good. Game of the year going on Saturday. Free picks galore. Free picks at takingvegas.com. I think there's 17 or 18 free pick articles up. You can go check those out as well. If you're just listening to this podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, or you are actually on the site, just click on free picks and you'll get the articles. You can also click on the listen now button. You're probably on it already, but you can listen to the radio show. I think that'll be up on Saturday. And great things going on, especially the initial investment program that's designed to make $10,000 turn into $60,000 with just 3 games, only risking your initial wager twice. So we tell you all about that. And that's at 888-994-6669, which is 888-9-WIN-NOW, which is all anyone wants to do. So, guys, enjoy your weekend. That's going to wrap up this Taking Vegas podcast for the October 14, 15, 16 weekend. Hope you guys have a profitable weekend. Hope you guys have a good weekend, and hope we see some better football. And we will. The games on Saturday are going to be great. Buffalo, Kansas City on Sunday is going to be great. Dallas and Philadelphia is going to be great. So there's some really good games lined up for the weekend that are much better than these Thursday night games that are single-handedly trying to pummel the stock price of Amazon. Have a great day, guys. Enjoy your Friday, and we'll catch you back here next week on the podcast. Have a great weekend, everyone.